As Trump says voting is an honor in Rant Against Mail-In Ballots, progressives respond, voting is a right, voting isn't a gift given by leaders. Citizens have the right to vote. Just remember that Trump and his whole family vote by mail. He's not against voting by mail, he's against poor people and minorities voting by mail. How is it in the land where people will kill each other for their rights, the right to vote is a progressive response? Okay. Bring every serviceman and woman back home to vote in November. They won't mind, and you won't have to worry about the fraud that has never happened even once since this started in the 1940s. Nor is there any example of fraud anywhere else. Trump lies as he breathes. I swear to God I do not understand how people do not see this fuck is literally attempting to create a fascist state. You realize that he's just setting the stage so he can contest the November results, right? He's making up bullshit. The last time a politician got busted for cheating on mail-on ballots was fucking Mark Harris, a GOP House candidate from NC. I don't see Trump denouncing that shit. How can someone be a Republican 30 years ago and still be one today? I know the boiling frog analogy, but seriously. Trump is pretty sure nothing anyone has wasn't a gift from him. We've started down that road. Voting is a right. Voting is an honor. Voting is a privilege. Voting is unnecessary. Any American who values freedom keep in mind two things. 1. There are felony prosecutions waiting for Trump if he loses the presidency. Barr et al. Are obstructing justice for him. While president, Trump is above the law. You should have zero expectation of fair elections. You should expect Trump to cheat in any way possible and get away with it. The McConnell Corrupt Federal Judges Network will make sure of that. Trump is a fascist and is trying so hard to become a dictator. He wants our rights to be things he can give to those he deems worthy and take away from those he doesn't. Anyone who supports him or defends him is dead to me. Meanwhile in Australia I literally get fined for not voting. What the fuck is wrong with America? You guys have lost the plot. What an absolute dumpster fire. Voting is also the most powerful form of silent protest, you rat fink grifting trust fund baby. See you in November courtesy of the USPS. We've accepted that he won't really talk to the press, he'll talk at them. Real-time direct scrutiny of his nonsense, like what Zhejiang did, is exceedingly rare. He voted absentee, but doesn't want other people to do it. It's not just progressives saying voting is a right, it is a basic tenet in the founding of this country. The dumbass-in-chief can best understand this when he goes to Arlington National Cemetery to lay a wreath at the Tomb of the Unknowns for Memorial Day. The right to vote has come at a high cost. Republicans hate democracy. Voting is a responsibility. Let's just stop pretending that he'll leave freely if he loses. Can we stop pretending? Trump republicanism is cancer. GOP trying to stop the Dems from stealing the election by actually stealing the election. Thinking face. America where guns are a right but voting and healthcare isn't. I don't see how the fuck this is a partisan issue. He mailed in his vote. He's just a hypocrite. Traitor Trump want to steal all the votes. Trump don't need to give it to me. Because I will fucking take it anyway. Voting day needs to be a national holiday. Voting by mail through absentee ballots isn't some liberal conspiracy, it's a legitimate method of voting that has been valid long before the current climate. Yet now it's somehow a new and terrible thing that's set out by progressives in order to overthrow Republicans. The GOP is filled with a bunch of man babies. It's funny how in the USA some citizens do not have the right to vote, that you need to register to be able to vote. That some even go to jail because they voted when they had lost their right to do so. Etc. etc. Truly a shithole country. It's beyond a right. It's a duty, which far too many people in the US don't take seriously. Anybody watching the John Adams series on Prime? I think it's very timely. It's an honor, which is why we make black people wait in line for hours to do it. Dictatorship has begun. You know what's an honor? Being president. He's the only one who treats it as his given right, and abuses the position like it's just another pussy to grab. Honestly, I think that the only thing that should take away a citizen's right to vote is if they are mentally or physically incapacitated. Basically, you go into a coma, no more voting for you. Suffering from dementia or Alzheimer's. Sorry, can't vote. Felons should be allowed to vote, and even people in prison on death row. And honestly, voting should start when you turn 18 or get a driver's license, whichever comes first. Prison and bail reform will never happen if politicians don't have to appease prisoners. Fascism/FZM/ is a form of far-right, authoritarian ultranationalism characterized by dictatorial power, forcible suppression of opposition, and strong regimentation of society and of the economy. I've been doing mail-in voting in my state for well over a decade. Because of health issues, if I had to go in to vote, I simply wouldn't vote. Or more precisely, wouldn't be able to. I'm glad that mail-in voting is being pushed for other people. Republicans cry about rights, think mail-in ballots are bad. Republicans cry about big government, spend $1 billion on a fighter jet. Republicans cry about welfare state, gives tax breaks to 1%. Republicans cry about pro-life, supports capital punishment and sacrificing vulnerable to COVID-19. Republicans cry about homosexuality and racism, turns out many are closeted or have hidden interracial relationships. Republicans talk about love for country, can't get security clearances and have meetings with Russian intelligence. Republicans talk about draining the swamp, appoints donors to cabinet positions and firing inspector generals. To be fair, the guy who is president despite the voting will of the people, popular vote, ignoring the purpose of democracy shouldn't be surprising. Trump is going to try to invalidate all mail-in votes. When he loses, he's going to point to them as the main reason, even though his margin of loss will likely not be explained by mail-in ballots. It doesn't matter, because he'll have enough of a false argument to get support from his base and right-wing media and his cronies in the Senate for the people to actually question the outcome. Curiously, the military has voted this way for ages and only now it becomes an issue. Because it's not an issue. My mom sent in her mail-in ballot. She forgot to sign it. She received a phone call and an email letting her know that if she fails to sign it, her vote won't be counted. Pretty secure setup, right? She literally just told me right now that she doesn't like the idea of mail-in voting because she's worried her vote won't be counted. With proof that someone is paying attention and was literally checking her ballot. Trump voted by mail. So voting is an honor, but stockpiling assault weapons in your basement is a right. Voting is our most basic, fundamental right as citizens. Never let anyone tell you different. They're really not even trying to hide the fascism, are they? This is textbook fascist rhetoric. If this country was founded on anything, it's the right to vote. His ban on mail-in ballots just isn't going to work. He is trying to reduce that demographic, that isn't going to work. Much like Idiocracy, Starship Troopers was supposed to be satire rather than a roadmap. Voting is a right. Voting against your old decrepit ass is an honor. For Republicans, the ends always justify the means, but there's very little principle involved. They'd show up at the state capitol with a loaded gun to protest Applebee's being closed, but they'd throw away voting rights in a heartbeat if they thought it helped the Republican Party. It's not about our freedom. It's about theirs. Exclusively. TBF, Trump doesn't know what honor means.